Is the recording going? Great.
Yes.
Okay, well, we will call the meeting to order then. Mrs. Smith, would you please call the roll?
Sure, I know that James Moses is waiting to get in, so if we can get him in and then I'll call the roll, that would be great.
Very good.
All right, all set. All right, Julie Anderson,
Present.
Lindsay Atkinson,
Present.
Julie Bruni,
Here.
Nathan Carlo,
Present.
Erica Kreutz,
Here.
Robert Deacon,
Here.
Ellen Dakotas,
Here.
Trevor Hustis,
Present.
Donald Marian,
Present.
James Moses,
Here.
John Sargent,
Present.
Elizabeth Forestieri,
Here.
Ava DeRier,
Here.
Shayla Harriman.
Here.
You do have quorum with 11 votes present.
Great, thank you very much. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we continue any further, it's been a while since we've done one of these Zoom meetings, so I just wanted to go over some reminders for folks. We are being live streamed on our district's Facebook page, so anyone out there in the public can watch. The link is available on our website under the School Board tab. Just a reminder, please keep yourselves muted until you are called upon to speak. I know Lori will be helping me out trying to find people if they're trying to get my attention. There also is the raise hand function on the bottom of your screen there. I think it's under reactions. Yes, no, it's not. If you go to participants, I know it's there. And at the bottom of that, you can hit the raise hand. And if you click that, your name will go to the top of my participant list and I can call on you at that point. You can unmute yourself and you can say what you have to say. For votes, pursuant to state law, allowing us to meet like this, all votes do need to be roll call votes. So much like we do for a quorum call, Mrs. Smith will read all the names. You'll say yay, nay, or not voting. And then at the end of that, Mrs. Smith will let us know the tally and we can declare the vote failed or passed. Is there any questions on our Zoom norms before we get going here? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda.
I make a motion.
Moved by Mrs. Anderson. Do I have a second?
Seconded, Erica Kreutz.
Seconded by Mrs. Kreutz. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mrs. Smith, would you please call the roll?
Sorry, I'm working through computers. Julie Anderson.
Present.
So that's a yes.
Yes. Didn't we do this already?
We're
So-
voting.
We're voting.
All right.
Oh, I'm
We're not-
sorry. This is,
Yeah, but due to Zoom rules,
Oh,
all
got it.
votes need to be a roll
Yeah.
call vote.
got it. Yes.
Thank you. Lindsay Atkinson,
Yay.
Julie Bruni,
Yes.
Nathan Carlo,
Yes.
Erica Kreutz,
Yes.
Robert Deacon,
Yes.
Ellen Dakotas,
Yes.
Trevor Hustis,
Yes.
Donald Marian,
Yes.
James Moses,
Yes.
John Sargent,
Yes.
Elizabeth Forestieri,
Yes.
Ava DeRier,
Yes.
Shayla Harriman,
Yes.
and the vote was unanimous.
Thank you very much. Do we have any public comment this evening? Members of the public, if you are here, please just unmute yourself and say that you have public comment. Okay, seeing none, I'll turn the floor over to our student representatives for their report.
Okay, so for the high school, the Bonnie Eagle Times is offering a new activity for students in honor of the upcoming Super Bowl weekend. Students can enter their predictions for the winner of the game as well as the score for a chance to win a gift card. Model UN is hosting their first meeting remotely within the next couple of days. NHS is also starting a new connection, this time with members reaching out to a high school faculty member of their choice. And NHS is also offering opportunities for members to remotely tutor middle school students. Students were also very excited about the MPA's decision allowing after-school activities to occur regardless of the yellow county status. So far, there have been no problems with after-school activities, and every club/sport is doing a great job following COVID protocol.
So for Buxton Center Elementary School, the all-remote week went great without a hitch. The teaching staff and support staff worked so hard to make sure the students' needs were met. The teamwork was incredible, from getting paperwork put together for parent pickup and phone calls being made to follow-up contact and helping students meet their goals. NWE testing is in place, and we have a few grades complete their testing per schedule. 2 staff meetings were held on January 19th and 25th. Synchronous learning is in place as teachers test the waters and implement the process in their classrooms. The learning curve is improving every day. Teachers are sharing their experiences with other staff as well as offering words of wisdom on what works and what does not work. A meeting was held with parents on January 27th for students who participate in the Chinese program this year, the 5th graders. Discussions are in place for students moving up to middle school next year. Buxton Center Elementary School had a wonderful surprise visitor this week. Our new Bonnie Eagle mascot stopped in to meet and greet our students. Thank you, Heather Corbeil-Veer, for bringing our mascot to Buxton Center. For HB Emory and Steep Falls Elementary Schools, both schools have the Healthy Habits Bingo Challenge going on until February 8th. Both schools are also having positive results with the Positivity Project, and they continue to do an awesome job with their COVID protocols. Students at HB Emory are really enjoying the sleds purchased by the district. At Edna Libby Elementary School, it's been pretty quiet this month. Students finishing up their writing contest entries, and they are starting their backpack food drive.
For Georgie Jack Elementary, the staff and students have continued with their Positivity Project. The past 2 weeks, they have focused on character strengths of perseverance and supporting others when they struggle. And this week, their character strength is integrity. 39 students and staff also submitted entries last week for the district writing contest. Georgie Jack will be participating in the Bonnie Eagle Backpack Food Drive, and parent-teacher conferences have been scheduled for virtual meetings on March 9th and the 11th.
And for Bonnie Eagle Middle School and Hollis Elementary School, there's no new information for the meeting, but things are going very well.
Great, thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments for our student representatives this evening? Seeing none, I will turn the floor over to Mr. Brockman and Mr. Smith for the presentation of the district's federal compliance audit for FY20.
Thank you. We have a completed draft audit for the year 2019-20, and Ron is here to give us a little presentation on how the audit came out. I think financially we're in really good shape. We had no articles that were overdrawn, and we were able to add to the budgetary fund balance a significant amount carry forward for the future. So I think I can turn it over to Ron and let him go over what they found.
So I'm sure you guys got a long agenda. How about I just hit the highlights of it and just some of the talking points that we talked about, Bill, myself, Tina, and Levi, who unfortunately couldn't join us tonight. You know, I'll just pick up where Bill left off. You got the highest opinion that we could possibly give you, an unmodified opinion. We found no compliance findings or questioned cost. The district, in all my years of doing business with the district, this is some of the best financial condition we've seen this district, and there are a variety, of reasons why and how you ended up that way on June 30, 2020. But the biggest thing is, as Bill said, is no budget items were overspent, by the district, which in return, you guys return $2.5 million back to the bottom line that allows you to carry that forward into the next year, and leaves you with carry forward into 2021 of about $3.7 million. So, which is an increase of a little over $3 million last year. And how you got there was by being frugal and just the, COVID, I think, presented some certain unique challenges for you, but it allowed you guys to really return a big chunk of money back there to use it, to mitigate any other financial unforeseen circumstances down the road. And that was a good shot in the arm for your district, much needed. And certainly, always teetering on. Bill and I seem to talk about that fine line of financial stability. You guys teetering on anywhere from $600,000 to $1 million and trying to operate a $50 million plus budget on that. That's a tough act to do, certainly with those kind of numbers. And it's just nice to see end of the year. A couple of things. We talked about this last year. I'm going to hit on it again this year. I don't see any reason to be alarmed, but I do see a reason to say, hey, let's raise our hands and let's do something about this. Food service, again, you guys threw about I think it's like $95,000 of a transfer from your general fund. The year before it was $270. And the program actually went from a positive 60,000 down to about 21,000 in the hole. And that's one thing, okay, do we need to put more money in the budget? What do we need to do? And look at it. And again, nothing that I'm going to be alarmed, about right now, but just something to certainly keep in the back of your guys' minds out there. And I always say that food service next to the cost of education is the next most underfunded program in education. So with a program of your size, it's not unusual. Many of the other districts are in far. This wouldn't even be a conversation, at SAD 6 compared to some of the other districts. I'm just telling you a trend, that has historically head downhill for the past 3 years, but you're in nowhere near as rough shape as some of the other school systems that we audit, and we audit like 150 school systems. So again, just something to keep in the back of the mind out there, with food service. Best practices. I think you guys did great while we were at the audit. There were some new changes that came with procurement and just some reconciliations with payroll. Bill and Tina immediately responded and literally put a corrective action plan and gave us the information as we were actually there on site. I don't think it can get much better or best practiced than that. And overall, I think that things went well for the audit. And given the fact that you're in the middle of a pandemic still, given the fact that we started this exercise back in probably April of last year, given the fact that we finished and continued the exercise in July and August of the summer, right in the heart of a pandemic, and as you guys were trying to come up with some kind of educational plan to put these kids back in school, I would just want to thank Bill and Tina for all their hard work and really, quite frankly, going above and beyond the call of duty to really, provide us the information needed so I can sit here and talk with you in confidence, about this product that we delivered to you all. So.
Very good. Thank you very much. You've all had the audit to review in your board packet, so I want to turn the floor over to our board members if they have any questions for our auditor or Mr. Brockman. Mr. Deacon.
Thank you. I'd just like to make sure the public knows who HRH Smith Company is. They're a local company, but they have a quite broader presence in this field. And so we're using a company that we have used for a number of years, but they're although they're a local company, they are well-known outside of our area. I'd just like to ask that they comment briefly about their company so that the public knows who they are.
Yeah, we're a Buxton-based firm right on Old Orchard Road. We own one of the 10 most oldest buildings in the state of Maine. I feel it every day, and I'm proud of that. Let me tell you that. And anybody that wants to stop by and stop into that, they'll see some history in Buxton for sure. We employ 33 people at our company. All we do is live in the world of nonprofits and governmental accounting. We do 400 audits in the states of Maine and Vermont, all government. You know, I'm just giving you our government reputation. 170 of those are school systems. That's all we know. So we've got like zero learning curve of who you are. And I'm one of the founders of the company. You know, I've been in the profession for 30 years and have that institutional knowledge. And we're proud to support SAD6. We're proud to be part of the community, and I'm proud to be the auditor for MSAD 6 to talk about the good, the bad, and the not so good, and not so good that we've had some conversations, you know, in the past of, and that's a little bit about who we are and what we do. I believe we do every municipality in your school district. So,
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Any other questions or comments from board members? Seeing none, before we move on to a vote of approval, I do want to thank Mr. Smith and your firm for your hard work, as always, in auditing our books. And I want to thank Mr. Brockman and Ms. Plummer. As I try to do every year, we do this. No matter the circumstances, we always seem to have an even-keeled hand looking over our finances, making sure that we have a budget that is well managed, and we always seem to come out on top. And you know, I was very encouraged to hear the numbers this year, and is a testament to Mr. Brockman and his staff's hard work and making sure that our district is in the absolute best financial position moving forward, so we can, of course, execute our mission to help all students achieve their full potential. So moving on, I'll entertain a motion to approve the audit as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sargent. Is there a second?
Second.
A second.
Seconded by Mrs. Kreutz. Mrs. Smith, would you please call the roll?
Julie Anderson,
Yes.
Lindsay Atkinson,
Yes.
Julie Bruni,
Yes.
Nathan Carlo,
Yes.
Erica Kreutz,
Yes.
Robert Deacon,
Yes.
Ellen Dakotas,
Yes.
Trevor Hustis,
Yes.
Donald Marian,
Yes.
James Moses,
Yes.
John Sargent,
Yes.
Elizabeth Forestieri,
Yes.
Ava DeRier, who's Ava?
Yes.
Shayla Harriman.
Yes.
Your vote is unanimous.
Great. Thank you very much. The question carries. Now moving on to the consent agenda, we have approval of the January 19th, 2021 meeting minutes and co-curricular appointments, which are included in the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sargent. Do I have a second?
Robert Deacon, seconds.
Seconded.
Moved by Mr. Deacon. Is there any discussion? Mrs. Dakotas? Oh, your hand is gone. Okay. Seeing no discussion, Ms. Smith, would you please call the roll?
Julie Anderson,
Yes.
Lindsay Atkinson,
Yes.
Julie Bruni,
Yes.
Nathan Carlo,
Yes.
Erica Kreutz,
Yes.
Robert Deacon,
Yes.
Ellen Dakotas,
Yes. Yes.
Trevor Hustis,
Yes.
Donald Marian,
Yes.
James Moses,
Yes.
John Sargent,
Yes.
Elizabeth Forestieri,
Yes.
Ava DeRier,
Yes.
Shayla Harriman.
Yes.
You have a vote, unanimous vote.
Thank you very much. The question carries. For my report this evening, I do have a couple items. The first is nomination papers are available for 4 open at-large MS-86 school board seats. Nomination papers can be picked up tomorrow. We have 4 seats open, 3 3-year terms in Hollis, Standish, and Buxton, and 1 2-year term in Fry Island. So if you are interested in running, for those in the public or members of the board whose seats are up and running for re-election, please do see Mrs. Smith or your town clerk to get your nomination papers. And just one last thing, I did send out a message to the community this morning, thanking all of our teachers, students, staff, faculty, and parents for their hard work this past school year, and making sure that, you know, we're still getting the work done that we need to get done, and making sure that our students are well equipped once they leave Bonnie Eagle's doors to succeed in their own lives. I hope you all have the chance to read that as well. Does anyone have any questions or comments for me this evening? Seeing none, Mr. Penna, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. You have a copy of the truancies, which continue to, as you know, evolve as the dates evolve, and that whole process of timing, and the hires and resignations as well. And you notice we have added a bus driver and a maintenance person, which is positive on both ends of that. We want to thank the anonymous donor of $100 to benefit the backpack program. Nancy and Keith Zacharek of Standish for a donation of an Ives and Pond upright piano to benefit the music department at Bonnie Eagle High School, value of $2,000. Thank you to Avery Pierce of Bunting Hill Arts in Buxton for a donation of assorted jewelry making materials, and it's quite a bit of it because I've seen it, including homemade and imported beads, leather working materials, and other supplies, approximate value of $30,000. And thank you to Paul Gore and Port City Graphics for a donation of 6 sleds in snow igloo models to benefit the students in Miss Van Zant's classroom in Buxton Center, a value of $100. And for my report, I'd like to start with a shout out to our student representatives who do a wonderful job on their report. If you haven't noticed, very well coordinated and very well informed, covering a lot of aspects of things that are going on in the district. And I want to do a shout out for them and thank them for their efforts of putting into the report to bring the most current information to the community. We'll have our first inclement weather remote day tomorrow, along with multiple communities around us doing the same thing and trying out to see how that's going to work. We don't know. We'll obviously get some feedback from principals, who I'm sure we'll hear from community members. The whole idea of the remote inclement day is a continuity of learning. That's the focus of what we're trying to do. That we know, regardless of where we are right now, and with the inconsistency that we have currently, where students are going either 2 or 3 days, it's more important than ever for us to have continuity of instruction. So I think that's really important, and that's what we're shooting for. We know, in my past experiences as principal, we've seen it even in the most normal times we've had, that you have a vacation, and then you have a snow day, and then you have a couple days of school, another snow day. Very difficult in the winter months for our students to have continuity with instruction, and our teachers to keep their plans moving forward. So this is a test. We'll see how it goes tomorrow. We'll get some feedback, and we're excited. We've had people getting ready for it. We knew last Friday we were thinking about it. All parts of our organization are prepared for this, and so we will give it a go in the morning, and we'll see how things go. Sports season, as stated in the student report, has started. Again, we are in the green in Cumberland County. We will be reviewing, just so you know, the superintendents have an agreement that we will review February 5th to ensure that this game schedule, which starts February 8th, will actually be in motion. That we have held out with our ADs and said, you make a plan to start the 8th of competition, but we will be reviewing and making sure that it's gone as well as that has been reported. I can say in MS86, it has gone well. We haven't had any setbacks, and our students are really enjoying the opportunity, but it will be reviewed on the 5th to make sure that we're going to move ahead in competition. And competitions will look like 2 games. We're looking at 2 competitions a week, and we're looking at staying in cohort groups as much as possible. So basketball will be happening. Swim will be virtual. Hockey, they're working on their schedule as well, and track is working on a plan to also do something virtual. So everything is in motion and moving forward. And I think the students really appreciate getting back together and having some normalcy in some of that connection to school that they've always had. We know the music program is also, we had some communication with them today. They're working on a lot of plans in order to make sure that to try to get their programs going. And we know that the drama program is also doing their performance as virtual as is robotics. So there's a lot of things happening. We're trying to keep the students engaged and enjoying the things that they love to do. I had the first meeting of a remote pathway study team today. That'll be ongoing for the next several weeks. We want to see, we're just looking to collect information to make a recommendation to me to decide whether it's the right pathway for us to go. We think it's going to meet the needs of a variety of students, but we also want to set it up so that it's successful. So we're well under our way working. I'll be meeting with Thought Exchange on Wednesday to kind of clarify some ideas about how to get out to the community to gather their feedback so that we make sure that we move together in this whole initiative. And the community outreach van, if you see my latest YouTube video, is wrapped and ready to roll. We have a very, very aggressive schedule that I put together. I haven't put it together. I put together a spreadsheet. Every school has a team. And you can find out more about the community outreach program on our website. And every school has a team, and we'll be having different plans about how to reach out to the community and to support our students the best way possible we can. It takes a village to raise our children, and we need to work together to be collaborative in order to be successful. But I expect the van to be rolling around the district shortly, knocking on doors, bringing things to families that might need them, or just showing up at schools and doing informational events. So we're excited for that, and we'll be out and around the community soon, and that van is pretty cool. So we're quite happy with that opportunity that was provided by the CARES Act money.
Any questions or comments for the superintendent? Mrs. Anderson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Penna, can you explain a little bit? I've read the MPA's response to the students being able to play sports again, but can you explain their stance? Are they saying that the students can now, if the school boards vote on it, can compete with other schools, or is it only meant to be competition amongst MSAD 6?
No.
And how does virtual swimming and virtual track work?
Okay, so the MPA is allowing schools to work out their own schedules, and what the plan is, which is why the superintendents will meet again on Friday, but the ADs, athletic directors, are working through a schedule that keep it in cohort groups. So if you're playing town X, you're going to their school and they're coming to your school, and you're switching with boys and girls programs so that you keep within a cohort. So they are allowing for competition. There will be no state level competition. So it will be, I think, an 8-game season where you'll just go rotate around and play those teams. And that'll be the end of that season for the students. The virtual will work by time trials. And so it's going to be a lot by the honor system. So they'll do the events and each school posts their times, and then whoever they're playing. So if you're playing school X, you'll post your times on all the events. They'll post their time in the events, and then they'll score it accordingly as if they were in person. They are practicing 2 days a week. Both our hockey program and swim program have 2 days a week at a pool and ice rink to keep them moving, at least on within other time it's dry ground practices.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, moving on. Approval of the proposed.
Trevor,
Oh,
Ms. Bruni has a question.
yes, my apologies. Go ahead, Mrs. Bruni.
Sorry, my hand was up and then it went down for some reason. But I have 2 questions. Probably Paul put it down. So 2 questions for you, Paul. One of them is around, I know when we met at our last meeting, or one of our meetings, there was actually a snow day. And so I remember, maybe the question's more for Lori, the comment was around like, hey, we're trying to do that, but we need to figure out the food piece of it. So can you maybe just give us an explanation of how we went from that day not being able to do it? Like what modifications or what did we do to make sure that it qualifies as a school day?
We needed to make sure that all the operations part of the school district was ready to go. So that meant that Dottie Janata had to get out a spreadsheet. She had to make sure that all the parents that wanted to and have access to could have their snowpack meals. And so she got that all in place and was able to deliver to everyone that requested it as a snowpack. And then on top of that, I checked with her this morning, and she also plans, weather permitting, but she plans on being out tomorrow afternoon in order to keep the rotation of the meals that they sent home with students at the end of each day for their 3-day, because she has a cycle of students when they leave to be able to bring the meals home for when they're not in-person instruction. So she's keeping that schedule going as well. And the students that are currently home, they currently would be in school yesterday and today and tomorrow, have received their meal packs from last week. So I had to make sure that that was all coordinated before we were ready to go to a remote day, so we could feed our community. And I also had to make sure that that the other departments had work or training set up so that it wouldn't be negatively impact some of our employees by going into a remote day, and where they're hourly employees, where they wouldn't be working or punching the clock.
Gotcha. I think Lori has something to add before I ask my other question.
Oh, just that the message went out to all parents that food pickup will be on Wednesday instead of tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, and I saw that in the communication.
Yeah. But like Paul said, anybody who requested a storm pack already has one. We sent them out ahead of time, so now kids have them if they need them.
Okay. I just didn't know. I just remember us saying before you had to figure out the food, and so I just didn't know what that was. So just so everybody was aware. The other question that I have, Paul, is with regards to, like, I know that when we have, like, we had conversations back when I was chair, and there was like the like when we had power lines down, right? And you have to make sure that a certain percentage of students are present in school. And so when you do these 100% remote days, so this is, you know, technically could be a snow day. Do we have to track of like how many students actually participated in this remote learning, or because we're in a remote learning environment, do we not have to do that?
Yeah, it's a yes or no answer. We want to keep track of it because we want to know like how successful it is. And obviously if there are mass power outages, I know some teachers actually made some packets and sent some things home for kids in the event. I'm not sure everybody did that. So, I mean, what we're going to do is we're going to survey the population so in general, the other part of your question is that if we were to go to this as a permanent option, we would need to be able to check attendance. We don't really have to this year, but I want to know what our percentages are. We've been shooting for 80% of attendance rates on for participation for a snow day, although that's higher than the state requires, but we want that level of participation. But what a lot of schools have done, that when I looked into remote, because other schools and other states have done this, we're not new to this. They have a 2-week window when students can complete their assignments. Now we may not have that window, but you could have a window in saying assignments have to be turned in by Friday of this week in order for us to count for our attendance for that particular day. But what I'll do is I've asked the principals already to think about how to collect information from as a result of this. And so by the end of the week, they'll have some information collected as how well it went, what went well for teachers, what was a struggle, and what was the level of participation. That'll be the criteria we'll be looking for, yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
Great. Any other questions, comments, concerns before we move on? Seeing none, we have approval of the proposed 2021-2022 school year calendar. This was included in your packets for review. Mr. Penna, Mrs. Napolitano, do you have anything to add before we vote?
I'll let Lori jump on that because she actually sits on that committee and meets with that group.
You guys, I can show the calendar if anybody has a question, but it's essentially pretty standard to what we normally have for a school calendar, the same number of days, same number of late arrivals, teacher workshops, and so on that we normally have. For those of you who are new to the process, our school calendar has to be in sync and can't differ more than 5 days from all the other schools that are part of Westbrook Regional Vocational Center's sending area. So we all have to have calendars in common within 5 days. So we get together and and make our school calendars with input from all the other districts to make sure we're following that law. So that calendar is similar to Westbrook Regional Vocational Centers.
Very good. Do I have a motion to approve the proposed calendar?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Moran, seconded by Mr. Sargent. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mrs. Smith, would you please call the roll?
Julie Anderson,
Yes.
Lindsay Atkinson,
Yes.
Julie Bruni,
Yes.
Nathan Carlo,
Yes.
Erica Kreutz,
Yes.
Robert Deacon,
Yes,
Ellen Dakotas,
Yes.
Trevor Hustis,
Yes.
Donald Marian,
Yes.
James Moses,
Yes.
John Sargent,
Yes.
Elizabeth Forestieri,
Yes.
Ava DeRier,
Yes.
Shayla Harriman.
Yes.
You do have a unanimous vote.
Great, thank you. Now we have consideration of the Finance and Facilities Committee's recommendation to increase the teacher mentor stipend to $250 for the 2020-2021 school year and to reassess an additional increase of $50 for the 2021-2022 school year. Mr. Marion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mrs. Napolitano presented the idea to the Finance Facilities Committee at our last meeting. After considerable discussion and considering that it hadn't been changed for 20 years, the Finance and Facilities Committee voted unanimously to suggest a $250 in consideration of another $50 increase in 21-22. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Mr. Marion and the Finance and Facilities Committee? Mrs. Bruni?
What was it previously?
100,
100, so we're going from 100 to 250?
right.
Okay, which in a 10 years time frame, that seems reasonable. I just didn't know what we were going from, so.
Then
Okay,
we're
thanks.
considering another $50 increase in 21-22 to bring it to 300. Mrs. Napolitano had asked or had recommended 300 from the beginning.
Okay, and I'm assuming that that's what it is, consistent with other districts around us?
I do not know that.
Looks
Mrs.
like Lori
Napolitano?
does.
So the mentor stipend varies greatly around the state. In some places, it's in the thousands or $1,500. And we've always, for over 20 years, only paid mentors $100. But this is a good time to change it because state law around mentoring changed. So we no longer have to have, we used to have teacher action plan committee and committees, and you would have support team members that got $50 and so on and so on. So this, now they've made it cleaner and more streamlined. But the mentors are required to do 2 classroom observations and provide feedback to their mentee. That's over the course of the year. They're required to provide support at the beginning during teacher orientation and help them get settled in. And then they're there sort of just on a daily basis for all those little things like, you know, how to use the copy machine, and what do I do on a snow day to put things together, and how do I use Synergy Gradebook and things like that. So it's been it was at the point where the stipend was so low that, you know, they weren't, they did this work all year long and couldn't even, you know, go out to dinner with it. So by the time you took taxes out of $100. So that was why I brought it forward. But the answer to your question is it varies greatly. And we didn't want to we're not asking for a giant stipend where it's not negotiated in Schedule B. It hangs out there on its own. So.
Mr. Chair,
Good. Yes, sir.
I move that we accept the recommendation of the Finance Committee for the 250-300.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Sargent. Mr. Deacon, you had a comment?
yes, thank you. 2 things. We have invested substantial effort to train teacher mentors of recent times. And I think that adjusting the stipend is also a reflection of the fact that we have put this effort underway to make them more capable or robust in their performing those functions. And second, I just wanted to, I don't know what the numbers are, but I just wanted to make it clear that this change, although an increase substantially over 100% from what it was, is not something that's going to terribly throw our budget out of awry to any significant extent, but really is a much better acknowledgement of the training and effort that they put in, and recognizing the value of mentoring to the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deacon. Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, Mrs. Smith, would you please call the roll?
Julie Anderson,
Yes.
Lindsay Atkinson,
Yes.
Julie Bruni,
Yes.
Nathan Carlo,
Yes.
Erica Kreutz,
Yes.
Robert Deacon,
Yes.
Ellen Dakotas,
Yes.
Trevor Hustis,
Yes.
Donald Marian,
Yes.
James Moses,
Yes.
John Sargent,
Yes.
Elizabeth Foresteri,
Yes.
Ava DeRyer,
Yes.
Sheila Harriman.
Yes.
The vote is unanimous.
Great, thank you. I'll now turn the floor over to Mr. Carlo for the Policy Committee report of January 19th.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Policy Committee met on Tuesday, January 19th. All but one member was present. The committee received a request from the board chairman to submit interpretive guidance to the board regarding the district's conflict of interest policy. After consultation with legal counsel and executive session, the committee voted unanimously with one abstention that it would constitute a violation of board policy for a member to serve on the district's negotiating committee when that committee was bargaining with an employee association that represents a member of that board member's immediate family.
And we will get to that in the next item.
Okay. The committee reviewed and updated a few district policies and their corresponding procedures, but none of these changes were of significant contention, and I refer members to the minutes of the last meeting for information relating to those changes.
Very good. Any questions or comments for the negotiation, for the Policy Committee? My apologies. Seeing none, moving on to discussion action item number 15, a discussion regarding policy codes BCB, conflict of interest, and BCB nepotism. As Mr. Carlo introduced, before I turn the floor back over to him for the Policy Committee's recommendation, I asked the Policy Committee to evaluate these two policies and related to a potential conflict of interest. We're trying to address this before it actually happened. We had an instance where a member of our negotiations committee was an immediate family member of a member of a bargaining unit. Not a member of the negotiating team, but a member of the bargaining unit nonetheless, where that being defined in our nepotism policy and in our contracts, which I will note is a stricter definition than what is currently in state law. So with that, I will turn the floor over to Mr. Carlo for the Policy Committee's recommendation on how to move forward on this issue.
Okay, so as I was saying, the Policy Committee released its recommendation to the board that it would constitute a violation of board policy for a member to serve on the negotiations committee when that committee was also bargaining with an employee association that was representing a member of that board member's immediate family. At the meeting conducted earlier today, the committee expanded its advice to say that in the event that a member would be in conflict with this policy, that the member should abstain from all meetings during which the district's negotiating committee would be meeting with representatives from the conflicting bargaining association. So I defer to questions.
Thank you. And before we open it up to discussion, I do just want to point out for our negotiations committee folks, if the board decides to accept this recommendation from the Policy Committee, that the negotiations committee would be down to 3 members for negotiations with our teachers union. With the member in question would, of course, remain during the other 2 negotiations. I'm not going to name any names about who this member is unless that member would like to state that for the record, in an interest to try to keep this as impartial as possible, focus strictly on the situation, and the policy and the precedent. So with that being said, I'll open the floor for any questions that anyone has or any comments. Mrs. Bruni?
So if that's the case, would we just have to hold any discussions or negotiations? Because I know that there are multiple times that we have multiple items on our agenda, right? So would it be that we would just need to make sure that if we're doing something or discussing something from a bargaining standpoint with that particular unit, that we would just have to do those on a separate night? Or would the person be able to attend the meetings and just sit out as part of that?
I'm not going to speak for this person, but I think, speaking personally, either of those would work. Logistics wise, I think that your former suggestion would be the easiest way forward if this is what the avenue the board would like to take. Hold off any business that does not have to do with the bargaining unit in question for another meeting. But again, I would defer that to you, Mrs. Bruni, on how to execute the logistics of that for the negotiations committee.
I just worry we have 3 units that we're bargaining with this year. And so we're already enough nights that we're away and at meetings. So I just wanted to make sure that we wouldn't have to, if there were a couple of small items on the agenda, that we wouldn't have to say, hey, you can't come to any of the meeting. You can, that they could come to part of it. So, okay, we can work that out.
Right. Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, the policy committee and I are asking the board to take a vote to endorse their recommendation that the member in question would abstain themselves from all negotiations with this union, that they have the appearance of a conflict of interest as defined in our policy BCB and subsequent policies and contracts. With that being said, do I have a motion to accept the recommendation of the policy committee?
Before you do, does the member have to abstain?
They are certainly welcome to. I know the member in question abstained from these discussions in the policy committee. So I would encourage them to abstain from this vote as well. But whereas I don't see a particular pecuniary interest in this particular vote, I don't feel they're forced to. Mrs. Bruni?
I guess my question is that then you're requiring the person to identify themselves, right? So if the person doesn't want to identify themselves and then you're asking them to abstain, can we just off the record, if the person doesn't want to identify themselves, can we just off the record know that that's an abstention, or could she send a note and let Hetty know, right? Because it's kind of, you're saying, hey, you can either identify yourself or not, but now you're saying that they have to abstain and they're going to have to state that they abstain.
Right. So I recognize that it's a difficult position, but by state law and our policies, all votes have to be in public record. They do have to be recorded, either yay, nay, or not voting. So I do understand the catch-22 there, but unless someone has a suggestion there, I don't see a way around it. Mr. Sargent?
I recommend that we all vote on this procedure because you're leaving it up to the chair of negotiations on how she wants to work it, whether the person sits out the meeting or we have another meeting. So as a policy, I think all board members should vote on this. My 2 cents.
No, and I would agree with that, and I appreciate that clarification. We're basically endorsing an overall procedure on how we should proceed in these instances. whereas it doesn't necessarily, this action isn't against any one person. If this instance came up with any member, this would be the action that would be that we would expect to occur. So I think that's how we get around that naming names process there. Mrs. Kreutz?
Yeah, I would agree that this is a matter of setting precedent. It's not a particular instance. It happens to be current, but this is something that we would take forward as a precedent. So I don't see any issue with all board members voting on it.
Very good, thank you. And I do just want to let the board know, depending on what we decide tonight, the policy committee did say today they are going to be reviewing these policies to see if there's anything that we need to update or put in there, so we don't have to bring this forward again. We'll already have it in our policies that we can reference moving forward. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the recommendation. Moved by Mr. Carlo. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Sargent. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mrs. Smith, would you please call the roll?
Julie Anderson,
Yes.
Lindsay Atkinson,
Yes.
Julie Bruni,
Yes.
Nathan Carlo,
Yes.
Erica Kreutz,
Yes.
Robert Deacon,
Yes.
Ellen Dakotas,
Yes.
Trevor Hustis,
Yes.
Donald Marian,
Yes.
James Moses.
No.
Oh, you threw me off. I wasn't ready for that, but okay, so I got it. John Sargent,
Yes.
Elizabeth Forestieri,
Yes.
Ava DeRyer,
Yes.
Shayla Harriman.
Yes.
So the vote has passed with 10 yes and 1 no.
Thank you. The question carries. I will now turn the floor over back to Mr. Carlo for our policies for second reading and adoption.
None of the policies that are on second reading for tonight have been amended from policy, so they're all set to proceed to a vote.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the policies for second reading?
I'll move them.
Moved by Mr. Carlo, seconded by
second.
Mr. Sargent. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mrs. Smith, would you please call the roll?
Julie Anderson,
Yes.
Lindsay Atkinson,
Yes.
Julie Bruni,
Yes.
Nathan Carlo,
Yes.
Erica Kreutz,
Yes.
Robert Deacon,
Yes.
Ellen Dakotas,
Yes.
Trevor Hustis,
Yes.
Donald Marian,
Yes.
James Moses,
Yes.
John Sargent,
Yes.
Elizabeth Forestieri,
Yes.
Ava DeRyer,
Yes.
Shayla Harriman.
Yes.
You do have a unanimous vote.
Great, thank you. I'll turn the floor over to Mrs. Bruni for the Negotiations Committee report of January 25th.
Okay, thank you. We met on January 25th. Basically, we had two executive sessions. One was pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056D to hold a discussion with the representatives of the SAD 6 Support Staff Association on an item that may impact the current collective bargaining agreement. And then we had another executive session to begin the planning for the negotiations with the district's bargaining units. We do have 3 units that will be up for negotiations this year. And then the last item that we talked about was just scheduling future meetings, and we do meet on February 11th at central office.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions or comments for the Negotiations Committee? Seeing none, moving on, I'll entertain a motion that the board enter executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056D to discuss a recommendation from the Negotiations Committee that may have an impact on the current collective bargaining agreement between the MSAD 6 Board of Directors and the SAD 6 support staff.
So moved.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sargent, seconded by Mr. Moran. Mrs. Smith, you please call the roll.
Julie Anderson,
Present? Yes.
Lindsay Atkinson,
Yes.
Julie Bruman,
Yes.
Nathan Carlo,
Yes.
Erica Kreutz,
Yes.
Robert Deacon,
Yes.
Ellen Dakotas,
Yes.
Trevor Hustis,
Yes.
Donald Marian,
Yes.
James Moses,
Yes.
John Sargent,
Yes.
Elizabeth Forestary,
Yes.
Ava DeRier,
Yes.
Shayla Harriman.
Yes.
You do have a unanimous vote.
Great, thank you. So Mrs. Napolitano is going to be getting us into breakout rooms. If your little thing comes out on your screen, please press OK. I think that's what comes up. It's been a while since I've done one of these. So you please press OK, and we will get into executive session.
Says join.
Thank you for announcing our return, Mr. Harris. Do appreciate it. So I will now turn the floor over to Mrs. Bruni to make a motion based off what was discussed in executive session.
Great, thank you. So I would like the negotiations, or the board would make a recommendation that the board make whole from a compensation standpoint, the transportation and food services departments by paying employees up to 16 hours for missed time during the remote learning week for the dates of 1/19, 1/20, 1/21, and 1/22.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Mr. Sargent. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mrs. Smith, would you please call the roll?
Yes, and just before that, I would ask Ms. Bruni, would you email me a copy of your motion, please?
I would be happy to, Mrs. Smith.
All right. Julie Anderson,
Yes.
Lindsay Atkinson,
Yes.
Julie Bruni,
Yes.
Nathan Carlo,
Yes.
Erica Kreutz,
Yes.
Robert Deacon,
Yes.
Ellen Dakotas,
Yes.
Trevor Hustis,
Yes.
Donald Marian,
Yes.
James Moses,
Yes.
John Sargent.
Yes.
The vote is unanimous.
Okay, thank you very much. Upcoming Board of Directors meetings and workshops this Thursday, February 4th. We have a Budget Advisory Committee meeting at 6 via Zoom. Wednesday, February 10th, we have a Finance and Facilities Committee meeting at 4 in the conference room. Thursday, February 25th, we have another BAC meeting at 6 via Zoom. And on Monday, March 1st, we have a Policy Committee meeting at 4:30 and a regular board meeting at 6. I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Moran, seconded by Mr. Sargent. Mrs. Smith, would you please call the roll?
Julie Anderson,
Yes.
Lindsay Atkinson,
Yes.
Julie Bruni,
Yes.
Nathan Carlo,
Yes.
Erica Kreutz,
Yes.
Robert Deacon,
Yes.
Ellen Dakotas,
Yes.
Trevor Hustis,
Yes.
Donald Marian,
Yes.
James Moses,
Yes.
John Sargent,
Yes.
and I don't think I have my students, do I?
Nope.
No.
All right, so that's unanimous.
Great. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Stay safe in the snow.
Good night, everyone.